All right. Now, so how it works? Okay. All right. So now we're eating the food, right? So the food goes where? Into the stomach. So how big is the stomach?
Size of our fist.
Like a fist size. Okay. Then we have a fist size stomach, and then so behind the stomach, what do we have? A pancreas. How big is the pancreas? Thumb size. All right. So thumb size. So like in other words, like we have a stomach, and then we have a pancreas, and they're kind of neighbors. All right. So the front house is the stomach. The back house is the pancreas. All right. So when the food goes into the stomach, so what's going to happen? Digestion happens. So digestion happens, and then so you know it. How many hours does it take for the carb to get digested? 2. So the protein is 3, the fat is 4. So like eventually, like all that food is going to be digested, and it's going to be turned into sugar, goes into the blood. So in 4 hours or 5 hours from the time of the breakfast, what happens? All the food is gone. Do you agree? All the food is gone, right? Okay, so in 5 hours, then you're gonna get hungry again. So now you're gonna be eating lunch. So we eat a balanced meal the way the plate method is. And so like that plate that is gonna be ingested, so it's gonna last you 4 to 5 hours. Do you agree? All right, so this is how we're eating, right? So now the food that it got digested, it turns into sugar. So as soon as the sugar comes out of the stomach, who comes from the pancreas? Insulin. Insulin. All right. So now the sugar and the insulin, they're kind of holding hands, right? So what are they doing? They're going to be in the blood. Why are in the blood? Why are they in the blood? Because the blood is moving, and then what happens? Every part of the cells in our body needs the sugar, right, to burn it for energy. So the best way for this sugar and insulin, where are they? They should be in the blood, because the blood is circulating. The cells are not moving, right? So the brain cells are here, the muscle cells are here. So like the blood can touch everything. So now there is the sugar, and then there is the insulin. So where do they go first? They're going to go all through the body, right? Because everybody's asking for sugar. Where do they go first? Brain. They go to brain. Why? Because first of all, brain can only use sugar. Second of all, we have to have like a cognition alert. You have to be alert to direct our health, our body, right? Okay, so if your brain is not working, if my brain is not working, so can I do good decisions? No. So like the brain needs the brain says, okay, you know, like I need the blood and I need the sugar because I have to make decisions. Sorry. So okay, the brain takes the blood and then the nourishment and then burns it for energy. Now, like where do they go next?
The muscles.
Muscles. All right, very good. So the muscles, when I say muscle, don't think about skeletal muscle. Think about all our organs are made of muscle, right? So the intestines are made of what? Smooth muscles, right? The heart is made of what? Cardiac muscle. So all our organs are made of muscle, like, but every time like we say muscle, we think about the skeletal muscle, like because like people are doing exercise, there is like all this the muscle in big muscle. All right, so but think that inside our organs are made of muscles. Okay, so the muscles take the sugar, and then with the help of the insulin, they get the sugar, they burn it for energy, and every organ says, okay, you know, like I'm doing my work, I'm pumping the blood. The intestine says, okay, I'm doing the peristalsis, like, you know, like I'm moving all the feces out. So everybody's happy, right? So now the third place, where do they go?
Skeletal muscle.
We're done. We're done. When we said the muscles, they went.
No, but then the skeletal, because you said the organs, but then wouldn't it go to the skeletal muscles after that?
Okay, so they go to the skeletal muscles. So like they're done with the muscle.
Okay.
So where do they go now? They go to the liver. So they go to the liver, right? Why to the liver? Because the liver in the liver, so the glucose with the help of the insulin. All right, so what happens in the liver? The glucose turns into glycogen. No, not fat, glycogen. It turns into glycogen. All right, so it's glucose, but the name changes it. Is that clear, guys? The name changes it. All right, so now the glucose, it's kind of the insulin helps. Without the insulin, this doesn't happen. So now the glucose is turning into glycogen, and then what's happening there? It's getting stored. All right, it gets stored. Why is it getting stored? Why do we need the glycogen? Because you're gonna be using later. When later?
Your working hours.
Okay, activities. What else?
Just like living,
Eating.
daily living.
What else?
Eating.
Fasting.
Eating.
Fasting.
Oh.
Fasting. So when there is a fast, so the body doesn't die, right? So like you're still alive. So where is the sugar coming from? That glycogen turns back into glucose. Is that clear? So for that reason, when you're eating, the body has to make sure that some glucose is turning into glycogen and is stored in the liver for to be used during fasting and exercise too, right? So during fasting, but it's mainly the fasting. All right. So now, if it goes into the liver, so it has a cap. So like how much glucose can be turned into glycogen? 365 gram, it can turn into glycogen to be stored in the liver. After that, the liver says, okay, I'm a warehouse, my shelves are full, I cannot take it anymore. Does that make sense? But because like we eat more, because the food is abundant, a lot of food everywhere, right? So then we have money to buy it. So what's gonna happen? There is still more sugar. So the brain used it, the muscles used it, 365 gram turned into glycogen in the liver. There is still glucose. So that's what you were saying. Okay, that's what she was saying. So that extra sugar turns into fat. Where does it go? To the abdomen and starts accumulating on the abdomen.
Mm.
Does that make sense? So like what is this called? Central obesity. All right. So in other words, if we're going to be controlling our weight, so how much we should be eating? Enough for the brain to use it, enough for the muscles to use it, enough for the liver to deposit 365 grams. We have to stop there. Does that make sense? So because like we're consuming more, then we're generating that central obesity. Is that clear now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's just a question out of curiosity, but what's the difference between gaining fat on your central body and then like on your lower
Okay,
body?
it's a one another lecture.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, okay, so I'll kind of explain it, but like it's totally like one whole lecture about insulin resistance. Okay, so all right, so if more, okay, so then I said this, right? Okay, so now what happens that so breakfast you eat using the plate method. All right, so that plate is gonna last you 5 hours. Do you see? Because the carbs are gonna digest in 2 hours, the proteins are gonna elongate it, like to the 3rd hour, the fat says, let's elongate to the 4th hour. So then in 4 hours, that plate is gone. All right, so then like you're eating another plate for lunch, so that it's gonna last you another 5 hours. Then you're eating another plate for dinner. It's lasting you till 10 p.m. if you ate like at 6. And then so at 10 p.m., so where are you? Okay, so you have to brush your teeth and then you have to go to bed. Right? A lot of time people are hungry at 10. I tell my patients, like, if you feel hungry, that's it, that's the end of it. Don't take a snack. Because like once you take one snack, then it becomes another snack, then like you have a whole meal now. So what does the brain gonna think? Oh, I'm gonna work another 5 hours. And you're not gonna work another 5 hours, you're too tired. So brush your teeth and then go to bed, right? Okay. So now you're in bed, so that dinner that you took at 6 o'clock, it's all gone. So now what are you gonna do? Like, where is the food? The body still wants food, right? Even though you're sleeping. So that's the time this glycogen turns back into glucose by the process of what? Glycogenolysis. Is this clear? Glycogenolysis. Is that clear, guys? So in other words, at 10 p.m., so if there is fasting, so fasting, like sleeping is fasting. So what's happening here? Glycogen turns into glucose. Process is what is it? What is the process? It's very easy. Glycogenolysis. Is that clear? All right. So little by little, that glycogen turns into
Glycogen.
turns into glucose. So how much glycogen do you have? 365 gram. So you can deplete that 365 gram, so which provides energy for about 13 hours of moderate activity. So in other words, if you're sleeping, it's like it's gonna take longer even.
Which is
All
why
right.
I can get away with not eating breakfast.
Yeah, you can go away with not eating. Okay, so now like you're bringing another concept here. What do? They're not eating breakfast. What is it called?
Fasting.
Fasting. Remember?
Yeah.
So they're doing intermittent fasting. They're not eating breakfast. They're going all the way to lunch. So what do? They deplete all their glycogen. Now, if they're depleting all their glycogen and then still like you have 2 hours for lunch, so now what are you going to be burning?
Fat.
Think. Fat.
Fat.
So now you're starting to burn the fat, and then that's what you're losing the weight. All right. So, but when you start burning fat, what is that process called? It's not glycogenolysis anymore because it's not glycogen.
Is it gluconeogenesis?
What?
Gluconeogenesis?
Very good. Gluconeogenesis. Bravo. Yeah. So gluconeogenesis is when you're burning fat. All right. So now the fat is being burned to generate into sugar by the process gluconeogenesis, and then you're losing the fat, the weight. All right. So you're depleting all your glycogen stores. Then you're tapping into your fat, and then so that's how you're losing it. You're losing weight. All right. But like obviously you have to re-eat when you're eating. So you're replenishing glycogen stores again. All right. Okay. All right. So